This has been a common suggestion ever since I made the Cats as Cereals video where I descended into nonsense at the end. Much like the Pokemon video, my opinions here will have nothing to do with the fact that the characters are cats, and by that I mean I will not only be using cat-shaped Neopets, but I'm probably going to lean into colors a bit more than usual because that's the nature of Neopets, but not entirely. Honestly, all of these ended up being supremely easy decisions, but I did definitely pick a lot of furrier, cuter Neopets, not really because I'm trying to make them more like cats, but because I prefer the furrier, cuter Neopets, and it's really hard to say, oh yeah, this Warrior Cats character would be a Buzz, you know? For a small clarification, my favorite Neopets are the Bori, the Zweetalk, and the Saibunny, and the Zafara. So it's pretty unquestionable that I have a taste that leans really, really heavily into the cute, big-eyed ones as opposed to, you know, the more masculine, dinosaurish types. So there are definitely Neopets that didn't get included, Neopet breeds that didn't get included, probably just because I wasn't thinking about them. And despite the fact that my experience with Neopets kind of drops off somewhere around like 2013, I've decided not to limit myself to only like pre-2013 colors either, because I wouldn't be able to remember, and also that would be really rather limiting in general, even though some of those are really, really ugly, like the new colors, they're bad. Wait, no, this isn't a video about me thinking Neopets colors are bad, let's just get on with it. Firestar would be a Fire Kachik. I'm only half breaking my rule here, and using what's probably the most iconic basic Neopet, but with a very suitable color, I hope you all can understand my compromise. Greystripe would be a checkered Nimmo. He's a little bit of a friendly, funny guy, and I'm sure some people see the appeal in him. I'm not terribly fond of him, however, much like the Nimmo and the checkered color. Ravenpaw would be the Halloween cow. It has Ravenpaw's coloration, but it still looks very kind. It looks nice. Polite. Sandstorm would be the camouflage Aisha. It's Sandstorm. Look. Bluestar would be the Starry Zafara. When I was actively role-playing on Neopets as like a 12-year-old, I knew someone who had a Starry Zafara who was named some variation on Bluestar. And so for a while, because of this, the Starry Zafara came up in my mind faster than the real Bluestar did. If you had a Starry Zafara with Bluestar in its name, you probably roleplayed as a Pokemon with Moonkitty about 16, 17 years ago. Greywing is the Grey Corbat. Greywing had to be a Grey pet, but I settled on the Corbat because it's one of the, friendlier types. Well, a lot of these came down to me looking at the Neopet and going, okay, is this a nice Neopet or is this a mean Neopet? But even the quote-unquote mean Neopets aren't really mean Neopets, so it's hard to explain. And for a lot of the newer ones, like most of the lore behind the Neopet species is like 2-3 sentences about how they're playful or active or something. Also, sorry if I pronounce any of these Neopets' names wrong. I have never once looked up how to pronounce a Neopet's name. I just go for it. Clear Sky would be a Silver Eerie. The contrast between the silver color and the gray color I feel works well for Clear Sky and Greywing specifically. And I also feel like they both should have been creatures with wings. Windrunner would be the Tyranian Uni. I know this is a bit of an odd choice, but while I still wanted her to be a Uni, I also wanted her to be slightly less of a fancy one. Tall Shadow would be the Darrigan Lenny. I wanted a grumpy-looking Darrigan for her. Starflower would be the Goldakara. I think that Starflower should be cute, at the very least. Also, making Starflower gold and Clear Sky silver, I think that adds for a good dynamic. River Ribble would be the Moroccan Elefante. He has to be a Moroccan something, and I figure the Elefante looks relaxed enough. Mothflight would be the White Vandegeyer. I wanted something that still looks a little weird. Brambleclaw would be the Woodland Yerbal. I feel like a Neopet that's both fluffy and a little masculine looking is best for Brambleclaw, and Woodland works because he's very rugged. Meanwhile, Hawkfrost would be the Woodland Kyrie. I went with the Woodland Kyrie for Hawkfrost because it resembles the Yerbal a lot structurally, but it's also like a slimmer, cooler version. Squirrelflight would be the Halloween Usul. It is the creature with the biggest, reddest tail on Neopets.com. Meanwhile, Leafpool would be the brown Ixie. I'm keeping it simple for Leafpool. I think simple, not terribly complicated colors are actually suitable for Both Leaf Pool and Squirrel Flight, but I went with the Halloween Usul because I thought it was funnier. Feathertail would be the silver koi. I think that the koi's tail works well to resemble a feather. Tawny Pelt would be the spotted loop. I considered a few before this one, but I think it works out well. Tawny Pelt being a loop especially seems fitting. Scourge would be a Wraith Poogle. I considered giving him, like, the MSP color, but something that's both kind of harmless and kind of evil is just the ideal in general. So I settled on the Wraith because it's a little bit more intimidating looking than the MSP. Ashfur would be the spotted... Oh my god, I've never had to say this word before. Tuscanini? It's a terrible name for anything. I'm sorry, neopets.com. It's just another spotted pet that's perfect color-wise. Crowfeather would be the stealthy croc. All the stealthy pets have, like, these huge, empty blue eyes for some reason that make them, like, on one hand, really bad for customization, and on another hand, kind of scary and empty looking, and I hate it. But it works for Crowfeather, who actually kind of has, you know, striking blue eyes. Mothwing would be a fairy terry. I know it's not exactly a moth, but it does have wings. And it's kind of the right color. Cinderpelt would be an eventide Norbu. Cinderpelt is a funny and goofy and heavily connected to StarClan, so I figured this all would just be suitable. Tigerheart would be a Darrigan Kugra. Yes, I know that Tigerheart isn't purple. Jayfeather would be a gray Kyrie. I think that Jayfeather is miserable enough to be a gray pet. I don't think most characters are miserable enough to be gray pets, but I think Jayfeather is definitely, very much like Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh, you know? Not quite, but, like, I guess it's a bit hard to explain. Jayfeather, in comparison to the rest of the cats, is like Eeyore and Winnie the Pooh. But, you know, when singled out and looking at his character, he's more like, He's like the token grump in a children's cartoon. So I feel like the gray color is suitable. Hollyleaf would be a shadow loop. At this point, I realize I'm starting to lean into the furrier creatures for most cats as opposed to the more abstract ones, but I can't help it, I just like them more. Lionblaze would be a royal boy Kugra, because if I went with anything else, I would be wrong. Cinderheart would be the eventide Uni. She's a lot like Cinderpelt, but not quite the same. Poppyfrost would be the fairy Zweetalk. I feel like a lot of Zweetalk colors can be interpreted as calico or tortoiseshell cats if you, like, squint. Soul would be the rainbow Tonu. I mean, Soul has so many colors in his pelt that he might as well be a rainbow. I also chose the Tonu because its silhouette most resembles a lion. Dovewing would be a silver Psybunny. Dovewing's a fluffy, sweet thing, and I think the Psybunny just suits her best, aesthetically. Meanwhile, Ivypool would be the white Ogrin. I'm not looking it up. I'm not going to find out. Anyway, meanwhile, Ivypool is a lot more lanky and awkward than Dovewing is. I think that this Neopet works well because it's mostly white and comes complete with stripes, but it also, like, it has kind of a, an awkward teenager feel to it, and I feel like, if anything, that's who Ivypool is. Hairstar is a biscuit Jub. I chose the Jub because it's one of the Shire Neopets. Briarlight would be a brown Lutari. I just think it's cute. I went through all the brown Neopets and picked a cute one. That's what happened with Briarlight here. Bumblestripe would be a checkered Bruce. I always think of him as someone who, you know, at least more than slightly resembles his father. Blossomfall would be a polka dot Walkie because spots. Hawkwing would be a gray Irie. For some reason, despite similarities, my brain insists that Dovewing doesn't need wings, but Hawkwing does. He's gray because he's miserable. Leafstar would be a chocolate Techo. I think that the chocolate color is sort of weird, but a lot of them have cream colors on them, which is good for Leafstar because she's kind of like brown and cream. And that's her, you know, unique element pelt-wise, is that she's got cream on her specifically. Billy Storm would be an orange Scorchio, orange and generic, just like Billy Storm. Sharpclaw would be the red Bori. He's nothing special, but he has huge claws. Echo Song would be a relic Piofin. The moss growing off it feels more appropriate for Echo Song than a lot of other medicine cats. Breezepelt would be a mutant Scorchio. Mutant, but, like, not terribly evil looking otherwise. It's hard to grab anything that looks mischievous from the collection of, you know, Neopets we have, because they all look a little bit generically happy. So I felt the need to go for something that looks, not completely evil like the Darrigan, but not super happy like a normal color, so I guess Mutant is kind of a medium between those two. I did previously choose the Darrigan for a character who was stern, so maybe I should have gone with the Darrigan for Breeze Pelt. I guess it's too late to change my mind now. Alderheart would be the plushy Kachik, because he's just a little guy. And Sparkpelt would be the Fire Poogle, so that she looks a lot like Firestar just generally, but a little bit different. Needletail would be the pastel Hissy. I think the comparison between the Hissy, looking like one of the more antagonistic Neopets, but also the very soft color scheme works well for Needletail specifically. Violet Shine would be the spotted cow because I had to, this is just who she is. Tree would be a yellow Chia. It's the only Neopet that could possibly properly display his presence. Finleaf would be a jelly Kiko. I couldn't possibly represent his legs through this, so I have chosen not to. Twigbranch would be a fairy Chombi. I can only see Twigbranch as being tall and having a long neck now. Growing from a twig into a branch only materializes this way in my mind. Darktail would be a checkered Skeeth. This was harder than all of the others to pick. I really just didn't know what to do with him. I kind of wanted to just remove him from the list, honestly. Root Spring would be a spotted Mindsea. I know that the spotted color has, well, spots, but yellow didn't seem right, even though he's literally yellow. I think choosing to make one of them a basic Neopet color, one of the 4, feels like it's saying something when it isn't really saying anything at all. Spotfur would be a gray Lutari, probably one of the most legitimately miserable characters we've ever had. Bristlefrost would be a pastel Shoirou. I feel like she would just be good and generic in appearance, especially with the Shoirou's personality. Shadowsight would be a Shadow Walkie, but I don't really think any Neopet's default expression is suitable for Shadowsight. I scrolled through them a million times and I was like, oh, they're all smiling. All of them. Moonlight would be a mutant Kyrie. Likewise, it's hard to find something big and intimidating enough when you're looking through Neopets. Frostpaw would be an Ice Ousel. Ice seems to be a good stand-in for Frost, and the Ousel is good, but I feel like a few others could work too. I think we just need to see more of Frostpaw. Not that I'm ever going to renovate my Cats as Neopets video. Flamepaw would be a Skunk Rookie. I know that the skunk color has a white stripe on it, which might be unsuitable for Flamepaw because, it's legitimately part of his character and part of his story that he's a pure black cat, but I really like the contrast of the eyes here and how the Rookie has a very unique body type that would further separate him from the Neopet quote-unquote Firestar physically. Sunbeam would be a Christmas Flotsam. Ignoring the fact that she's literally a reindeer here, I feel like the Flotsam is a good fit for Sunbeam in general. See, she's not as happy as one, but all the Neopets look blindingly happy constantly. Meanwhile, Lightleap would be a camouflage Jetsam, and I feel like if Sunbeam is a Flotsam, making Lightleap a Jetsam feels like a good parallel. Hazeltail would be a Cloud Jubjub. It's the exact kind of creature that might fall into a garbage can. Thornclaw would be a mutant Galert. Probably the most normal looking of the mutant pets, but still with that, tenser expression. Rainwhisker would be a stealthy Grundo, but like one you adopted from the pound and it didn't have its paintbrush clothes. Snowtuft would be a white Quiggle. Imagine this approaches you in the dark forest. This is what it feels like to see Snowtuft instead of someone like Mapleshade. Turtletail would be a Biscuit Zweetalk if you pretend that those chocolate chips are spots. Purdy would be an elderly boy Lenny, but there are so many good old pets to choose from here. Likewise, Misty Star would be an elderly girl Mohawk. Smudge... oh no, I used up the spotted cow. Spudge can be the speckled Mohawk, because he seems like a speckled Mohawk kind of guy. Spiderleg would be a spotted Rookie. I know the colors aren't perfect, but he needs to be a Rookie. How else can he be Spiderleg? Rosetail would be a pink Sweetalk, because it's cute. Reed Whisker would be a pirate Galert, and I should have made more of RiverClan pirates, actually, thinking about it. Goose Feather would be a Gooseberry Chia. He needs this. He needs to be this. Kestrel Flight would be the camouflage Terry. He had to be some sort of Terry, so I feel like the camo one works best because it's kind of muddled. Berry Nose would be the plushy Buzz. Berry Nose is the kind of guy that you would paint for an avatar. And last but not least, Mapleshade would be the Magma Grarl, which seems like the kind of thing you'd meet in the Dark Forest anyway. As opposed to the scary Quiggle Snowtuft. And there's Warrior Cats as Neopets. There are not enough, mean-looking Neopets. And not enough sad-looking Neopets, as it turns out. All of them are just very, blatantly happy and generic. So even if a character isn't, terribly, terribly evil, to make them look a little bit evil, you need to kind of go all the way when it comes to Neopets. But I will be going through their default expressions and choosing sad ones for the sad cats when I edit this video. Because it'll be funny. Or maybe that will just be sad. Who knows? We will see.